Good afternoon. My name is Marie-Louise Moodie. I come from a province in South Africa called Gauteng, and today I speak about the integration of foreign nationals into the South African education system and its economy. Gauteng as a province is one of 9 in South Africa. It is a city region and the 26th largest urban region in the world. Out of the 58 million people who live in South Africa, 15.2 million live in Gauteng. Gauteng enjoys a far greater share of immigrants than any of the other 8 provinces in the country, attributed to its economic contribution to the region at large. In the main, Gauteng contributes 35% of South Africa's GDP. It contributes 42% of its industrial output and 53% to exports. It is the 7th largest economy in Africa. So what I'm saying is that Gauteng as a region or a province is the 7th largest on the continent in Africa, not the 7th largest economy in South Africa. Migrants and refugees are increasingly setting down their roots in Gauteng, and we expect that they will continue to do so for years to come. This is based on several factors, but let me zoom into the educational aspect thereof. Important to know is that all law in South Africa is based on the South African Constitution of 1996. Within that constitutional description, schools provide free education where possible. It's a constitutional imperative. Within that school setting, we have a national language policy framework adopted in 2003, and it recognizes all 11 official languages in South Africa, as well as the right to multilingualism in our schools. More importantly, the Refugees Act of 1998, which was amended in 2015, allows for asylum seekers to apply into our school system. There are various things that Gauteng has envisioned to achieve by 2030. Most of them align to developmental goals such as the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the New Urban Agenda, the Paris Climate Agreement, But key for us, being on the African continent, is that we align ourselves to the Africa Union agenda that we wish to seek to achieve as a continent by 2063. By 2030, Gauteng would want to have all settlement spaces, promote social cohesion. We want to achieve an integrated people regardless of people who come from different races, colors, or creeds. More specifically, we would want to ensure that there is no racism, no sexism, xenophobia, or homophobia in various sectors in our countries, but specifically in our schools. Now, if we ask why is it that so many migrants choose to come to South Africa, and specifically Gauteng as a province in South Africa, we're going to have to look at a couple of factors that make that very attractive. One of them is that the Gauteng city region has a high human development index and the best social progress index in South Africa. When we inherited a free South Africa system in 1994, we inherited a deeply unequal and divided society. Today, we still face high inequality, some social polarization, spatial injustice, clearly linked to our urban form that we inherited as an apartheid country before 1994. But we work tirelessly to build greater equality, social cohesion, and economic inclusion. If one looks at the migrant figures in Gauteng specifically, 81.7% of foreign nationals come from the South African development community. So 81.7% of our foreign nationals reside in Gauteng. 6.6% of the foreign nationals are from the rest of Africa, while 6.3% come from the United Kingdom and Europe, and a small amount from the rest of Asia. Gauteng, and like in South Africa as a province, South Africa itself has achieved universal access to education, as well as large numbers of people who have a secondary and post-secondary education. It's a big achievement since 1994. However, our biggest challenge probably in the school situation is that due to our diversity, more than 25 languages exist in the country, but it's difficult to include all indigenous languages into our schools as the, the preference for the language of learning and teaching. It remains a challenge given that learners or children best learn in the language that they know from home. So their home language isn't always available in our schools. In Gauteng specifically, we have seen huge numbers of increases in our migrant learner population since 2016. So we have five regions in Gauteng, five district municipalities, and from 2016 to 2020, the picture has grown greatly. Children from migrant families are mainstreamed into our educational institutions from early childhood development stages right through to secondary school levels. Specifically, for distressed migrant families, the South African government offers free nutrition programs, free school fees, free uniforms, healthcare, and more. If one looks at the table on the right hand side, over the last 5 years, the story is very, very telling. Gauteng's learner migrant population has increased from 8,000 learners to well over 66,000 learners. These learners are registered, the numbers are registered at the primary and secondary levels of schools. So, the distinctive issue for South Africa, not just for Gauteng, the province in South Africa, a distinctive issue that separates us from many countries is that our migrant learners are registered in our schooling system in exactly the same manner as the South African national children are registered. For migrant learners, South African schools require documentation such as copies of passports, work permits from parents or study permits should they be at a level at the tertiary level, as well as documents confirming asylum or refugee status, proof of residence, reports, and transfer cards. So for us in Gauteng, it's no shock that migrants who arrive here arrive mainly in the municipalities that offer economic opportunities. If you looked at the city of Johannesburg, you'd see that from 2016 to 2020, the numbers have grown massively. In 2016, there were 3,922 migrant learners in our system, in our education system. This year, we recorded 37,287 learners. The city of Johannesburg, the city of Tshwane, and the city of Ekurhuleni are our economic centers. So one can derive that learners come along with their parents who have probably sought economic opportunities from within Africa, mainly SADC, the South African Development Community region, and then further up into Africa, with a small number coming into our country from Europe as well as Asia. Now, the education sector in South Africa both at school and university level, we believe plays a huge role in the social cohesion of migrant persons and South African nationals. What we seek to achieve is no different for South African national school-going children to what it is for migrant learners. Our education system is completely mainstreamed to cover both foreign nationals as well as South African children, and we seek to achieve a smart and seamlessly integrated socially cohesive, economically inclusive city region that puts us at the cutting edge of Africa's industrialization program. So, as part of the contribution to that industrialization program, the education sector has prioritized policies and strategies that target the achievement of quality teaching and learning outcomes. It seeks to improve literacy and numeracy across grades and ensures that all children are school going age, that would be 7 to 15 years old, are at school and that they have access to schools. A key priority for us is to continuously improve our educational outcomes in township schools. These were schools in the old apartheid era that were not well resourced. We have, over the last 20 years, managed to turn the education system in township schools around in a big way, and we've made significant investments into technology and other infrastructure in those township schools. We find that lots of migrant learners do indeed attend township schools as well as schools in suburbs. Gauteng invests in schools of specialization to produce skills for the knowledge economy. There is no difference between the investment made for South African learners compared with foreign national learners in the same class. So really the specialization of schooling is to ensure that we have an educational program that responds to the country's skills and high levels of unemployment. As part of the program, we also have embarked on reskilling lots of our learners at technical and vocational education and training colleges to produce the skills that are required by our labor market. The education system, in a great way, has built libraries in communities. We didn't have these before. In townships, there were very few. Some just didn't exist in any of the township areas. But we've managed to bring services to all spaces in our province, and we are developing them as connectivity hubs to increase the dissemination of information. Like libraries and within schools and school classrooms, we also ensure the equitable access to sports and recreational facilities for both South African children as well as foreign national children. So really, opportunities are created in communities for refugees, migrants, everyone who lives in a specific area. There is no distinction. We believe in a big way that schools are builders of communities and builders of the South African nation. So if we say schools are the builders, then our educators in those schools must be considered nation builders too. In terms of the skills program, again, there's no distinction and equal access is available to all who live in our province. Recent migrant entrepreneurial activity measured in Gauteng showed that migrant activity in our province is mostly linked to the retail and wholesale trade, the services sector, as well as the manufacturing sector. Now, what's key around that is that all of those sectors contribute to our economic growth plan. So, when one looks at the region, in the main, we seek really as part of our objectives to to take forward the principles and ideals of the African Union's Agenda 20. As Gauteng, we embrace migrants, foreign nationals into the country, not just from Africa, but from the rest of the world. Thank you.